Welcome to Visualize, the podcast where collaboration fuels change. I'm your host, Chris Baker, and each week we'll explore incredible connections between nonprofits, businesses, and the community. This is a space where we highlight inspiring partnerships, uncover strategies for creating meaningful impact, and share stories that show how working together can make all the difference. Whether you're a nonprofit leader, a business owner, or someone just passionate about building connections, this podcast is for you. Welcome back to Visualize. Today I have Justin Nepola. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's great to be here.
I would love to hear a little bit about your journey in the nonprofit sector. I know you're on a couple different boards, and I don't know all of them, so I would love to hear all of them if you have more. But then also, what inspired you to take on that leadership role?
It's funny. I'm going to ruin the evergreen nature of this podcast and tell people that it's being recorded at the beginning of the year, because my volunteer journey and my board journey kind of both revolved around, I don't want to say New Year's resolutions, but it kind of was. I don't remember how long ago, but it was a while ago that I had made the resolution one year. I was like, all right, I'm going to do more volunteering. I'm going to get out involved in the community. Mm-hmm. And I just did it. I found HandsOn Broward at the time. I found their website, and they have a great calendar with all different events. I found a food distribution event that they were providing realtors. They were providing volunteers. You could tell where I spend all day. They provide volunteers to do the distribution for Feeding South Florida. And I went out and had a great time. We were filling people's cars up. It was a drive-through food distribution. Actually got my foot run over. Fortunately, it was a small car, so my foot was fine. But the woman actually stopped on my foot. I was pounding on her roof, telling her to move.
No.
So that was the highlight of that day. And then ever since then, despite getting run over, I was hooked. I had a great time. So I started volunteering regularly at all different organizations. Fast forward a few years later, I was writing my goals for the year. And one of the things I said is I want to be on a nonprofit board. And in parentheses, I wrote HandsOn Broward. I said that would be my dream board to be on. And I guess to the power of visualization, the power of writing your goals down, within 2 months, the CEO and the COO of HandsOn Broward pulled me aside and said, hey, we would love to invite you to join the board. And so I was like, you're never getting rid of me. And so that's where I've been for years on. And I've been fortunate enough to work my way up to board chair. And I'm very honored by that.
How long have you been a part of HandsOn South Florida?
I honestly don't know. It's probably been on the board 6-7 years. Okay. Time is kind of a blur ever since the pandemic. I lose track of time completely. If somebody told me it was 10 years, I'd be okay. I don't know. I honestly, it's probably been about 4 or 5, maybe 6 years.
So the first thing that we filmed with HandsOn South Florida was their Parkland Hearts project back at the beginning of 2023. And so that was 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. We were working with Christina at the time, and we filmed all 3 of the different projects that they were doing at the time.
I remember that.
And from that point, it was later on, there was a conversation of having you on the board. Yeah. And that took several months to work into play. But that was by about the middle of 2023 is when I joined the board. That we may have met at Boat Kids.
Because I feel like I've known you longer than 2 years.
No, it hasn't been.
Really?
I know, right? It kind of feels like you were saying time flies.
Time does. And time is, for sure. But I definitely feel like you've been entrenched in the community for so much longer.
It's actually kind of unique in that regard, because me and Momo have not even been here for 3 years.
That is just such a testament to the two of you, because you've done such a great job of just ingratiating yourself in the South Florida, in the Fort Lauderdale community, that I feel like you've been here so much longer, because everybody knows you, everybody loves you guys, everybody appreciates all you do for everybody. So that's phenomenal. Good for you. That says a lot.
that means a lot to us too, because honestly, it's been a challenging, 3 years.
It's not easy.
We do feel we are starting to feel the love and feeling the connection to the community. And,
Good
we've
for you.
made amazing
No, because it's
work,
not
so.
easy. It is not easy
No, it's not.
to come, because neither of you really knew anybody in South Florida when you got here, right?
We knew nobody.
Yeah. So to go from nobody to being well recognized and established in 3 years is phenomenal. Good for you.
Thank you. All right, so let's get back to the podcast. Welcome back, everybody.
It's gonna be an 8-hour podcast.
Let's get a little bit of time. Okay, so what other nonprofits are you now associated with, since you've been on HandsOn Broward for 6-7 years?
Yes.
What other ones have you kind of
I have
leaned on?
been involved with quite a few.
Okay.
I've been pruning, partially intentionally, to focus more on the for-profit side of my life, where I actually need to make a living and take care of a wife and children. I've still got bills to pay, and they enjoy having a roof over their head and food. So I've done a little bit less. So right now, HandsOn South Florida and Military Recreational Divers, I believe, are the only nonprofit boards that I'm still currently on. I was on a few others. I was on Neighbors for Neighbors for a long time. I was the board chair of that one. I was the president of the Broward Realtors Charitable Foundation for a number of years. So I've been on a bunch. There's a couple that have a special place in my heart that if they asked me, I would serve, but I'm not actively looking to do it. So that's why I'm like, all right, you know what? Right now, 2 is plenty.
No, and sometimes, that's enough, because I know that you and Jackie, your wife, are constantly out there volunteering.
Yep.
And so besides just even the board volunteerism, you're already doing so much else in the community as well. So thank you so much.
Sure. It's what we love to do and we enjoy it. So
yeah.
And honestly, I really do enjoy the hands-on work more so than the board work often. So, things like the HandsOn Broward projects are more fun than the board meetings. Not that the board meetings are fine. Dale, we love you. We love the meetings. They're wonderful meetings. The projects are more fun.
Yeah, the projects are amazing. You putting it together very well. Like, you're really bringing the community together. And that's one of the things I really do want to spotlight, is the amazing work that HandsOn South Florida does, because they are the ones finding volunteers for all these other nonprofits. And sometimes they don't get seen as a major nonprofit in that regard, but they're so amazing because they're pulling the community together and the volunteers together so much better.
You're 100% right. It's a weird situation where they are the connector, and people forget about them. Because they don't have, the kind of the sexy appearance that the actual nonprofit that's doing the work has. They're the ones providing the power to get it done.
Right. And so one of the things that I noticed right away, like as I was starting to be on the board and I was talking about HandsOn South Florida, people were like, I don't know what that is. And I was like, you need to check out their website. They can help you potentially find volunteers if you get, start looking at them as a resource.
Correct.
And so that was just kind of something that, we need to help get them a little bit more exposure. So that they know that other nonprofits can find them.
Correct.
Because that's really what they're there for.
Exactly. They're there to help the other projects.
Yeah. All right. So collaborations and partnerships. That's really what the next piece that I want to talk about. So can you talk about how both of the nonprofits that you're on tackle some of the community challenges that we're facing right now?
So many years ago, and I do know this was pre-pandemic and into the pandemic, I had the crazy idea to have my own podcast. Very similar to this one. I wanted to highlight nonprofits.
Oh.
I had the pleasure of having somebody from a nonprofit on, from the Flight Center. And she said, Broward County is Collaboration County. And I was like, you know what? It really, really is. It's one of the few places where the nonprofit community really does work together very well. They really do help each other. If one can't get the job done, they are not afraid to, pull in somebody else to help them. And so it's been my pleasure to be able to work with multiple nonprofits and kind of help them collaborate when they can. Like when a HandsOn South Florida has the volunteers that can help a project, Showering Love was building a house for homeless veterans and needed help with some landscaping. Well, HandsOn South Florida was, offered to bring in the volunteers, offered to help in any way they could. So doesn't always work out because of coordination issues, but a lot of times things like that do work, and it's a win-win for everybody.
I'm happy to hear that you're seeing a lot of the collaboration. Unfortunately, when I've talked to a lot of other nonprofits, they're not seeing it. So I want to make sure that that's open to everybody and that we can figure out ways that everybody can collaborate more. So yeah, that's very good that I'm hearing that the ones that you have gotten connected with, they're already doing that. And that makes me very happy. I want to make sure that the people that are watching this, they can look and learn from those collaborations so that they can do it more too.
I think, I believe nonprofits all start with the best of intentions. They all want to help people. That is their core. They want to help their cause, whatever that may be. Mm-hmm. And when it's just genuinely trying to help, nonprofit people all want to work together. Unfortunately, funds are limited, grants are limited, finances are limited. Right. So when it comes to that level, it does become more competitive. Even exposure is more limited. So, if there's a grand opening, a ribbon cutting or something where there's going to be exposure, they all want their name and branding to be front and center. And that can't always be the case. But when it's just coming to help the individuals, they all, at the end of the day, will work together to help the individuals.
To strengthen the community, to help the community, I 100% agree with you. That is why the nonprofits are here. That's why we're here. We need to bring this together. Mm-hmm. Like there is a gap in government. There is a gap in resources that's where they come from. It's the nonprofits bring it to us. So I think that's fantastic. What are some of the challenges so that during the pandemic, we're going to go back a little bit, going to pandemic, presented a lot of challenges, specifically to a lot of nonprofits even. So what were some of the key lessons that you kind of thought and took away from that maybe some of our listeners can actually use for the future to make sure that, they're covered?
That's a good question. I feel like a lot of the, lessons we learned weren't necessarily profit specific. And honestly, I think if anything, we're far enough from it that what we've been through, we all want to just get away from. There was a lot of the virtual events, a lot of the virtual meetings and things like that. And I think people really do crave in-person connection again. Oh yeah. Very much. So that's one thing that I guess maybe that is a lesson we learned, is that at the end of the day, people do want to see other people and be in contact with other human beings. Some of the events, the drive-through distributions and things like that, it was fine. Mm-hmm. It served its purpose. Do I think it was, could you still do it today? Probably. And
I would agree with you in a lot of those pieces, because as human beings, we need connection. Mm-hmm. We need one-on-one conversations, and only ever having conversations through Zoom, you don't get the body language. You don't get the energy from the other person to feel connected. Yeah. And so that's a huge gap that was missing. And I think that's probably a really good key lesson from what I'm hearing. If you're a nonprofit, make sure that you're out there in the community and that you can be seen. Sure. And so they can feel what you're bringing to them. So I think that's probably
I think that's probably I think that sums up my thoughts probably better than I did. Yeah. So thank you.
You're welcome. But I mean, we've known each other for a while now, so I can kind of
you knew where I was going.
I did know where you were going, and I was like, all right, I think this is where we're at. So we're okay, perfect. All right, so we've talked a lot about HandsOn South Florida. Talk a little bit more about MRD, Military Recreational Divers.
I am not a veteran. I have not dove in decades. Mm-hmm. I love both helping that community, and I do love the ocean and diving. I just haven't done it in a long time. The truth is, I just love the people who started it. They're wonderful, wonderful people. I've known them for a long time. And as soon as they said, we're starting a nonprofit, I said, whatever you need, I'll help you. And that's really a lot of times how I make my decisions. I live my life is I want to support the individual and their cause. And, if I started a nonprofit personally, would it be to help divers or to help veterans with PTSD through dive therapy? Probably not, because that's not my wheelhouse.
Right.
But when friends who are great people say, hey, this is what we're going to do, you know what? I'm all in. So that's kind of how I got involved in that organization.
It's very interesting to me because I remember last year you introduced me. It was the beginning of last year, if I'm not mistaken. You introduced me to Monica from MRD at the social breakfast at the
That's right.
Fort Lauderdale Chamber. You're like, hold on, you got to meet this person. We got to meet Monica and we had a great conversation about the nonprofit.
Yeah.
Like we were intrigued because Momo loves to dive.
Right.
So it was just kind of this like whole like, ooh, this is a very interesting new, way of having ocean therapy.
Exactly.
And giving what is really hard to talk about is veterans take their lives a lot more.
Oh,
like there's a high percentage.
Correct.
And so having something like the ocean therapy through MRD is so powerful.
Absolutely.
Because I know that it saved Monica's husband's life.
Yeah, it absolutely.
And I know she'll talk about that and she'll be fine to, and to me, that was such an inspirational story for me getting to know Monica that it really kind of just like jolted me and like, there's a lot of different ways that nonprofits can help in different ways. And ocean therapy is just one of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, if it helps one person, to not hurt themselves, it's done its job. Absolutely.
It's a win because you just help the community become a better and safer place.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about one of the success stories from that you can kind of see on your end from being a board member for one of the nonprofits that you worked at. It doesn't have to be MRD or HandsOn South Florida, but any of them. Yeah.
There's been a number of outstanding opportunities. Probably one that brought in multiple nonprofits was I do a lot of legal pro bono work for an organization called No More Tears, which rescues human trafficking and domestic violence victims. They had a woman who they were able to rescue from her abuser. She had 2 children. They found her a place to live, and she was walking the kids to school and then taking a bus for hours and hours and hours to go to work. It was a huge project for her.
Wow.
So she was somebody was kind enough to actually donate her a car. She'd just gotten her driver's license. She got the car. She didn't have insurance. She didn't have money for gas or anything. The Broward Realtors Charitable Foundation was able to pay for a year of insurance for her. So it was able to come in, kind of supplement that work that needed to be done and help her get the insurance. And then she could actually drive and drive the kids to school every day, drive to work, not have to walk and then take the bus.
Yeah.
I want to say it was something crazy. Like she had to walk like a mile and a half to get the kids to the bus. It was a pretty unbelievable thing. So it's funny, every year I get like Merry Christmas and Happy New Year text from her still. But it's very nice. So I'm very happy that, the organizations both were able to help her because she was in a bad situation. And, from what I understand, she would not have survived had she stayed there.
So where is she now today?
As far as I know, she's still it's in an apartment somewhere in South Florida. But she's doing great.
She's doing great now. Yes. Everything. Okay, good. So that's the part of the success story you wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Yes. No, she's doing
happy endings.
Like, I got a Happy New Year text from her last week. So I believe she's still doing very well.
That is fantastic. Bringing in different organizations that can really make a difference. And like you even said, even if it's only in one person's, it affected the entire community around her. Yeah. So now it affected the kids. It affected, she was probably able to work without having to that. So that business became a little bit more better. So it trickles. It trickles really out to everywhere.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
So that's fantastic. Looking forward, what are your strategic priorities with MRD and HandsOn South Florida to further empower the communities they serve.
With HandsOn South Florida,
Mhm.
they've been around for 50 years. They are in great hands. I don't worry too much about them. They know what they're doing. They've got it down to a formula. Could they use more recognition in the community? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do I think it would make a huge difference to them? Probably, honestly, probably not. The organizations that need volunteers often know who they are. The big funders know who they are. They do a great job. I'm not too concerned about that. Like, I'm there for them, whatever they need, 100%. But they've got great leadership and great team. So
Mm.
MRD, Military Recreational Divers, much smaller. They're a startup. They're still within their first year, 2 years. This is a make or break time for them.
Mhm.
Now, to their leadership's credit, they have done an amazing job of going from nothing to a fully recognized, respectable organization. And that is 1,000% their founders' just strength of will. And Monica gets all the credit for that. That's a case where they need people to know who they are
Right.
and to recognize the great work they're doing, and to bring in the funds so they can do more work, so that because their work is not cheap, to take
No, it's not.
a vet and, train them to dive, to take them out on the boat, that all takes money. And look, for their first gala, their big fundraiser, they did a phenomenal job. It was not easy, but again, by sheer strength of will, they did it. And I think it's phenomenal. And I don't see any reason why that won't continue and won't continue to grow.
So I know of at least 2 other collaborations that I know Monica has made. Like, she's done an event with Global Dreams USA last year. I know they're doing another one
Correct.
in 2025. And then we, as Visuals by Momo, even collaborated with her for Headshots for a Cause.
Correct.
And that was like our pilot. We wanted to see how it was going to roll. And honestly, now it's become its own little program that's going to be continuing, moving on. So wait to hear more about Headshots for a Cause. But like, going back to what you were saying, Monica has really made a strong impact, and the connections that she's forming, I see the nonprofit growing. It's going to take time. It's, it's not fast, but I do see some future amazing things going to happen.
I think, we all live in South Florida for the ocean and sunshine. So we all get the value of that. And everybody wants to help veterans, especially those most in need. So it's a cause that kind of lends itself to this community very much. And again, doing a great job of building that. And it's very exciting.
She really is.
Yeah.
She really is. I mean, kudos to you.
Absolutely.
Kudos to you, as well as kudos to Dale, and what you're doing at HandsOn South Florida. So thank you so much. All right. As we wrap up today's episode.
Okay.
All right. So this is the question.
This is the big. All right. This is it. This is the gotcha question.
Yes. What is the legacy that you hope to leave behind through your work, and how it'll help future generations?
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
I don't think about that enough, I suppose. Well, one, if I'm gone, do I really care?
There's people that will care.
There's people that will care for sure. Look, I've already left my legacy because I know my children give back. They've been volunteering since they were little. It's in their blood. It's in their DNA at this point. So my job is done. I could build 1,000 houses with Habitat for Humanity. I could give out 1 million meals with Feeding South Florida. That's all well and good. My real legacy is my kids, and thank you. and they're still not even out of high school yet, and I already know this will be part of their life forever and their children's lives. So
it's actually that I love that answer, because it's not how I grew up.
Nor did I.
I did not have we're going to go volunteer here, we're going to do this. And it was something that I started in college on my own. I had nowhere to be on a Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
And so I served food at a shelter.
Yeah.
And it turned into something I was like, wow, that was very rewarding.
Mhm.
The smiles on their faces when they actually got a warm meal into their, belly. I was just like, why haven't I known about this sooner? Why haven't I
Mhm.
done something about this sooner? So hearing that you've installed this into your family structure and into their lives, that is a beautiful legacy. So I agree with you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah. It's like I said, I didn't have that either as a child.
Mhm.
Now kids have to do community service hours for school, things, which that didn't exist when I was growing up.
I didn't.
But I see so many kids where the parents drive to the project, drop the kids off, come back in a few hours and pick them up, make sure they got their hours signed. That's never how we did it. It was always as a family. We would all go, and this is just, it wasn't for community hours. It wasn't for rewards or accolades. And yeah, they'll get a Chick-fil-A after or something, but that was about it. It was just, that's what we were going to do. We're going to go, do a HandsOn South Florida project today. And even as they got older, they still were happy to do it.
That's awesome. Well, Justin, thank you so much for being on
Appreciate it.
Visualize.
Thank
I'm
you.
hoping that the community gets to learn something from our conversation
Thank you.
about the amazing nonprofits that are out there, the collaborations
Absolutely.
that they can have. So again, thank you so much for being on our show today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Visualize. We hope that the inspiration and practical insights can help you foster stronger connections and meaningful change. Don't forget to subscribe, share the episode, and leave us a review. To learn more about Visuals by Momo and how we support collaboration and storytelling, visit visualsbymomo.com. A huge thank you to everyone out there listening. Until next time, remember, collaboration fuels change, and your connections can inspire the world.